Naraka Bladepoint's open beta has just come to a close this past Wednesday, and what a trip it was. But how good was it, and what do we have to look forward to for the full release? Well, that's what we're here to find out. I can tell you now that the open beta did give me some good impressions for what we have to look forward to, but we have to go into more detail, so stick around for all of that info. For those of you who don't know, Naraka Bladepoint is a third-person fighting style battle royale developed by 24 Entertainment that will be coming to PC on August 12th. If you'd like more details as to what the game's all about, I have linked my introduction video to all that info in the top right of your screen, so be sure to check it out. As for the open beta, I'll be breaking down the review into 3 different sections: gameplay, map, audio and visuals, and finally performance. For those of you who didn't get a chance to play in the open beta and you're looking to see if it's worth the price tag, or if you'd just like to hear some confirmation about what we got in the testing phase, then strap in because we have a few things to talk about. Hey everyone, it's OSK, and this is the Naraka Bladepoint Open Beta Review. First, let's get into the gameplay. Naraka Bladepoint is a masterclass at how to handle fast-paced melee combat in a battle royale setting. The game has ranged options too, but the main draw is the close-range engagements. The game features a seamless rock-paper-scissors style of system between light attacks, focus attacks, and parrying. Focus attacks can't be interrupted by light attacks. The only way to stop a focus attack is to parry it at the right time, and light attacks cannot be parried. If players strike each other with the same move at the same time, they clash and reset. This may seem simple at first, and it is on paper, but the combat really opens up when you consider all the different ways you can mix up these 3 options. For example, you could go straight in with a focus attack to guarantee some resistance against your opponent's light attacks. Maybe you know your opponent wants to parry, so you delay the last hit of your full combo, or maybe you just want to knock your opponent down and start a tech chase. And that's not even to mention the different weapons and characters you can play with. Each character in the beta felt very unique to play as, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. You had a movement assassin, a giant monk tank, and even a waifu umbrella healer. In Naraka Bladepoint, there are plenty of options for players to outplay each other with, and the open beta displayed this very well. Now let's talk about the movement. The movement in Naraka Bladepoint is smooth and enjoyable. There are plenty of different ways to move around the map and get from point A to point B in a quick and efficient method. The game operates on a stamina system for dashes and dodge rolls, which are important for combat like before, but also for sprinting as well. In addition to this, the grappling system allows players to hook on to nearby terrain and zoom on through to their destination, even if the destination is another player. Mastering these movement options created a wide gap between new and experienced players, and that's something I both felt firsthand but also loved as I mastered each individual part of play. Of course, as with every battle royale, there was a little RNG involved. Between zone locations, the type of weapons and armor, and even the different soul jades, little boost to your stats, that you found in the game world, there was a wide variety of options to choose from, but none of them felt like you were feeling defenseless. The game strikes a delicate balance between the strength of good loot and the strength of an opponent's skill. 9 times out of 10, if you were the more skillful player, you would win your fights regardless of loot, and that is something that feels awesome. The gear you find enhances your strength, it does not negate the skill of others, and I was very impressed with that while I played. Overall, for gameplay, I'm going to give Naraka Bladepoint a solid 9 out of 10 for the open beta. While the core systems in the game are phenomenal, there were a few bugs and quirks here and there, specifically with climbing and parkour, that need to be addressed. Sometimes you would just get caught between random corners and ledges that you would try to traverse, and that sometimes was the difference between escaping and dying. Other than that, the gameplay was an absolute joy to experience, especially during the combat. Now we'll get into the map, audio, and visuals, the setting if you will. Naraka Bladepoint's map feels very well sized for 60 players and is well varied in its locales and features. You have plenty of maze-like towns with temples, little villages in between, a shipwreck, a quarry, and my personal favorite, a giant boneyard with tree houses dispersed throughout. It all makes for very unique situations and different fights, especially in bigger engagements. Throughout the map, there are also plenty of places to hide and a wide variety of terrain to always mix up the flow of battle and give advantages to players who know how to utilize it. One of my favorite features of the map were the small hidden plants that you can find that boost health, armor, or even silence your footsteps, which really help players who are paying attention to get a leg up in their next fights. There are also interactable quests and features hidden in the map that can swing your advantage in a fight, like the ballista or even this water wheel. Overall, the look and feel of the map in general complemented gameplay in a very positive way, and I'm very happy about that. Moving on though, Naraka Bladepoint has some of the most stunning visuals and audio that you'll see in a Battle Royale. Starting with the visuals, kudos has to be given to the art and design team. All the different characters look unique and well designed thematically, and their personalities do a good job at foreshadowing their abilities as well. As far as the graphics themselves go, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a Battle Royale that's as good looking as this one. Sure, you have games like Fortnite and Spellbreak that embrace the more cartoony side of the genre with their style, but the Eastern fantasy and realistic looking design of Naraka Bladepoint fills in a gap that is very refreshing. Even the outer zone looks very thematic and visually stunning as well with that snakeskin look. Especially once the Bane Breath event actually activates and this giant serpent head comes out of the sky, it can just leave you in awe in a very good way. Now getting onto the audio, the music especially really adds to the feel of the game in general, even if I personally opted not to enjoy it while in my matches. The score of the game truly exemplifies the type of adrenaline rush you want the player to feel when they engage with other players, and it's a very nice addition indeed. Now, as far as the in-game sounds go, each one is up to standard with what you'd expect from a AAA title. The footsteps are loud and very clear, weapon sounds are good, item effects are good, ability sounds are good, everything's good. The only issue experienced during the open beta was the differing volumes between certain ambient sounds, the biggest offender being the previously mentioned Bane Breath event and the Serpent's Roar. It was quite loud at the best of times, to the point where I had to turn the volume down to a tenth of its original intensity, and it was still pretty loud. They did end up adjusting this particular sound at the very last extended day of the open beta, but I still would like to keep it in the review as it applies to the majority of the time played. Overall, I'd give the map, audio, and visuals section a solid 8 out of 10. The game is visually gorgeous, there is no doubt about that. Anyone can look at this game with their own eyes and be impressed by that alone. I think what brings this category down a bit is the map and the audio. While both are about where I expected them to be, both categories could be better. The map is lacking a little bit in the interactable features department and could use some healthy additions. The map itself has the one feature of the water wheel in the middle that can affect certain fights, but there really isn't too much else. Even in the quarry, you would think there would be some kind of stones or rock that you could drop on an unsuspecting opponent, but there really isn't too much of that. That's not to say that I want too much of that kind of thing where it would be unhealthy, but just something to keep players on their toes a little bit more. Audio is in much the same boat, as all of the sounds are up to par, and that's about it. It's what you tend to expect from a title as polished as this. Personally, I feel like some weapon sounds could use a bit more oomph, and footsteps could be tweaked to give more of a clue what surface your opponent is walking on at longer ranges. Regardless of that, the game did do a solid job, and I think with a few tweaks, this category could easily be 10 out of 10 once the release comes around. Alright, everyone knows this is the elephant in the room. We have to talk about the game's performance during the open beta, and I'll try to keep this one shorter. When the open beta for Naraka Bladepoint first released, the performance of the game was a bit shoddy but manageable. I was able to turn down my settings to low and get a decent 60 FPS in most locales and in most fights, nothing too crazy. However, 24 Entertainment implemented a patch on day 2 to try and address the hiccup, and this patch just made everything worse. The starting lobby would get me about 30 FPS on average, and sometimes fights would randomly lag, costing me a match. Not a great experience to say the least. This was further exacerbated by the fact that the game had some server issues as well. At random times, games would lag, and it seems like the matchmaking would sometimes put Chinese players on the North American server, which would make ping and latency a huge issue for some fights, especially when it comes to parrying a focus attack. I've had a few experiences as well when players would simply teleport out of view and end up winning fights off of it. Very frustrating to say the least. Now, as the week and the open beta went on, these performance issues were slowly improved upon, so I do want to give credit where credit is due. They did improve. However, it does not erase the fact that the vast majority of the beta did possess these performance issues, so with that, I will be giving this section a 5 out of 10. It wasn't the worst performance that I've ever played on in the world, but was far from the best. There is some hope for release though, as the final patch of the beta did seem to remedy these FPS and latency issues to some extent, although only time will tell if Naraka Bladepoint will return as a well-functioning title. The open beta for Naraka Bladepoint was a stunning and brilliant take on the Battle Royale genre and overall was a blast to play in. Between the fast-paced combat and movement systems and just the visual awe of what we got in the beta, the game is looking very promising for its August 12th release. The game did suffer heavily in terms of performance and audio balancing, however, which did hurt the overall experience of the game, but were largely fixed for the final 24 hours we were given to test the game. For these reasons, I'm giving the final verdict for Naraka Bladepoint's open beta a solid 8 out of 10. For Naraka Bladepoint's release, the biggest challenge will be making sure it is running well from the very beginning. The combat is engaging, and so are the environments and visuals, so time will tell if the performance will be up to snuff. Overall, a solid title that I would keep an eye on in the late summer season. Thank you guys for stopping by and watching my review for the open beta of Naraka Bladepoint. I just want to touch briefly on one final subject before we go though. As far as ranking and rewards go, I felt that the beta was mostly fair in its in-game rewards it gives the players. From skins to different talent slots that enhance the gameplay, these rewards via Silver Tau seem to be good for the time put in. I felt like the ranking system could be tweaked a bit though. I like how they punish relatively bad games and reward well-performing games. However, I felt as if the Asura leaderboard rewarded a bit too many points for time survived and should reward kills a bit more. That's just my personal philosophy. It is a battle royale after all, and being the last one standing is a challenge in and of itself. One last thing though about the kill leaderboard is that I often saw players with less kills and worse KDs ranked higher than players who seemingly did better, so maybe that could be tweaked for release. Anyway, just my opinion, I didn't feel too comfortable putting that in the official part of my review, but I still wanted to say it in some way. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, and I would really appreciate it if you dropped a like on the video and subscribed if you did enjoy it. And with that, I have a small announcement. I will be taking a small vacation starting this Friday. I will return after the 4th of July on that following Tuesday, so I will see you guys then. I've been OSK, y'all have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.